Good morning, everyone. You're watching Barnstable this morning. This morning, we continue our community profile series with Diane Casey-Lee. You are the executive director of the Cape Cod Council of Churches. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
You have worked with the Cape Cod Council of Churches for 13 years.
It's been a wonderful 13 years. Very exciting and very interesting and very rewarding.
Talk to me a little bit about what the Cape Cod Council of Churches does.
What we are able to do through all of our member congregations across the Cape and the islands is speak with one voice on behalf of folks who are marginalized, who are struggling to keep their homes, to feed their families, to keep their babies safe. We work with women in prison, and when they come out, we have housing for them. We work with DCF to help foster families and the children in their care. We have chaplains at Cape Cod Hospital and at Spalding. So there's a broad range of programs that the council is able to reach out and touch the lives of folks during their time of great need.
A lot of these programs, actually, you are responsible for. One of the programs I read is you're actually responsible for developing a Babycenter.
Actually, I'm not responsible. My predecessors, Susan Scribner, came up with that vision, and I was blessed to arrive when it was well established. It had been in place for about a year. What we were able to do when I arrived, it was helping babies up to birth to 1. And we identified the need that went beyond that. So we were able to get a grant, thankfully, from United Way and from the congregations across the Cape and Islands to expand it to serve babies from birth to 3. That makes a huge difference. A Babycenter distributes over 500 diapers, serves over 500 babies a month, and distributes over 15,000 diapers every month.
Wow, that is a huge number.
Yeah.
And you know, it's something that I don't think a lot of people think about, but diapers are so important and they can be very expensive. And for some families, that's just a huge help there.
It is, and food stamps do not cover diapers. And I remember when maybe I was on staff for about a year, and I was downstairs at a Babycenter, and a family had been referred by a physician, a pediatrician, who was caring for a baby who had 104 fever from diaper rash. Wow. So the need is great. It doesn't diminish no matter how many diapers we distribute. And the 2 directors have been able to get grants from the state for new car seats, and sometimes there are cribs. There's basic needs and then those extra special needs that children deserve.
Another program with the Cape Cod Council of Churches is the Faith Neighborhood Kitchen. What is that?
Well, that's we started with the one that was in place when I arrived, and as I'm departing, Faith Neighborhood Kitchen is really well grounded. It started in 2012 as a result of the fire at Calvary Baptist Church, and Calvary served hot meals 5 nights a week, and then they cut back to 3 nights. And when we asked Pastor Bruce Smith at a convocation of clergy and churches, what can we do to help you about 4 days after the fire, he said, feed my people. So 2 people who are now board members, Tom McCullough and the Reverend Judy McCullough, took that ministry and went all over trying to find a kitchen. And for all kinds of very good reasons, the only place that was available was Faith Assembly of God on Bierce's Way. The location is perfect. The problem is that they don't have a serve-safe kitchen. In other words, the Board of Health would not approve cooking in that kitchen. So, since 2012, and they're serving again tonight, over 70,000 hot meals have been provided by the congregations across the Cape. And they purchase the food at retail prices, they prepare it in their own kitchens, and then they cook it, and then they put it in their cars and they drive to Hyannis and serve it, and then go back and clean up. So it's a remarkable community effort to serve the needs of people who are hungry, and there are a lot of hungry people in the Barnstable area.
Yeah, sometimes I think because it may not be in our face all the time, we don't necessarily see it, but there's a huge need here in our community for this type of work. Tell me a little bit about Hands of Hope.
Hands of Hope was in place when I arrived, and it's managed by Kathy Driscoll, and she precedes me. She's been there for quite a while. And Hands of Hope Outreach Center provides emergency assistance, homeless prevention. We have a food pantry there. We have a thrift shop. So people who don't have any clothes or need clothes can get them for free. Other people come in and purchase whatever has been donated, and then we use those funds to help people pay their rent, pay their electric utility bill. We're getting close to the time in April when the moratorium is lifted. In other words, state law says no utility can be shut off. So what happens is, unfortunately, people don't have to pay their utility bill. They use it to buy food or pay their rent, and then comes the moratorium when it's lifted, and they have huge utility bills. So we try to help and pay some of that and work out an arrangement with the utility company. That's a huge problem. I mean, I've seen bills for $3,000, and because people just can't pay it.
Right, and then they have to count on their utility not being shut down. You know, really interesting. You mentioned homeless prevention services. What do you mean by that?
Well, let's use the Hands of Hope Outreach Center as an example. If someone comes in, and a family comes in, or an individual, and they are behind in their rent, and they either have lost their job or other circumstances have put them in a place where they can't make the rent, or they're 2 months behind, we will do everything we can to help and work with the landlord to help them stay in that house so that they don't become homeless. And that's called homeless prevention. It's dollars well spent. The thing is, you know how high rents are on the Cape, so very often they're 2 months behind in rent is $2,400. And we don't have that kind of those kinds of resources, but what we do have is collaboration with St. Vincent de Paul, with the Needy Fund, and other programs that we all work together to keep a client and family in their own home to prevent them becoming homeless.
Yeah, so much more affordable to deal with it before they're evicted and have lost housing than to help find new housing.
Right, and it stabilizes the family. The children, you know, very often if they can't remain in that home, they have to move to another location, another school, leave their friends, and that's a traumatic change in their life. I was at a meeting earlier this morning, and part of the governor's new plan is to include funds for transportation for a child who has been homeless and has moved to another, maybe a motel or another temporary location, that there are funds to provide the town with money to pick the child up, let's say from Brewster to go to Harwich. And I was very pleased to see that, because that stabilizes the child.
Yeah, something, you know, a lot of times people wouldn't think about the repercussions of this type of situation. Maybe, again, one of those things you just don't see.
Exactly.
It's not in your line of sight, and so you don't necessarily understand all of those repercussions that come along with those situations.
Yeah, and they're devastating. They really are. And we're addressing the heroin opiate addiction problem on the Cape. Certainly all of the agencies that whose mission is to work with people who have addictions and to help them, Gosnell being one, the hospital. We try to provide clergy with the resources and information they need so they can play their part when a family member comes in and is distressed and sometimes destroyed because a loved one has either overdosed or is using a lot of substances. So how do clergy respond? And then and then if an addict comes in to speak with a clergy person, we have resources that the clergy person can give to that addict. May not use it today or tomorrow, but hopefully someday that little pamphlet is going to make a difference.
Yeah, there's so many great things that the Cape Cod Council of Churches is working on. I mean, to hear about just some of those programs gives you goosebumps. Really good stuff. You're actually retiring this June. What are your plans for the future?
Well, someone asked me that this morning, and what first popped into my head is I've got to straighten out my linen closet. It's just a mess because I just let it go. So there are some personal things I'd love to have the luxury to do. And then I'm exploring and have made outreach to some programs. I would like to provide whatever I can to different ministries, whether it's in Boston or New York or Arizona, working with the children who are coming across the border. I did work with the South African Council of Churches in the mid-'80s, and I've sent a letter off to them. There are lots of needs, certainly in the Commonwealth and across our country and abroad. So I will make the decision as the offers come in. I hope offers come in.
Wonderful. So I'm so excited for you. I know you've had
you.
a successful time with the Cape Cod Council of Churches. When you look back over your 13 years, what do you take away? What is your takeaway from that time?
Well, the years have gone by very swiftly, and without the staff support and the support of the board of directors, we wouldn't be in the position where we are today. Staff are so committed and dedicated. They put in over hours beyond what they're being compensated for. The board has always been supportive. They go above and beyond, trying to help me and help the staff accomplish our goals. So I think that's enough. That's the best takeaway I could have, is to have had the experience of unwavering and faithful support.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us all about your wonderful years with the Cape Cod Council of Churches. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being. My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Diane Casey Lee is the Executive Director of the Cape Cod Council of Churches. For Barnstable This Morning, I'm Sarah Mantle.